Hey everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, TheBee LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Pollen is silver and our nectar is gold, preserving our wealth as honey of old, and like ancient metals, we hold our own. And today we're going to be joined by Everard of ARK S.G.O, silver gold osmium. And we'll see what's going on in Jackson Hole, Wyoming in precious metals. You bring him up, Ian. Welcome in.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good. How about yourself?
Just been rushing around, getting down to the bank before they shut, and just had a call from a good client. So you have to think, how can you bring the call to an end?
I seen that. I seen you were talking on the phone, so I was kind of trying not to bring you up till you were done. But
thank you.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Had some good client on the phone there. How are things going down there, up there, over there?
No, we're doing well, thank you. We're still growing, which is great. I know overall the retail precious metals industry is really tough still. I talk to my wholesalers 2 to 3 times a week at least. So I always try and get a quick rundown. And then you always get an idea. You look at the ticket number from the last order you placed, gives you a rough idea of how many sales they're making. So yeah, it's good to be in the growth stage.
Yeah, cool. Well, I know I've been listening to other dealers as well, and yeah, it's been kind of tight here of late from what I can see from other dealers. Hey, welcome in, Homestead. It's been a while since I've seen you. Good to have you here. Appreciate it. Gerald Draper, good to see you. So yeah, what are we looking at? More silver, gold? What's your or what is it? Rhenium? Is that what else you've been moving or?
Rhenium and rhenium silver, and we're selling more gold than we used to as well.
Okay.
And I think that's part people just see that, do you know what? This is a pretty stable choice. We had that volatility. We got to over just around 3,500 on the hourly chart, but we're back to nearly 3,400 again.
Yeah.
Often people are more confident once it's been up, been up, down, then they'll buy on a bit of momentum.
So have you seen many new buyers in gold? I would think actually that this high gold price would bring new people in, even though it's high.
Yeah, some people who've had gold in the past and have had to sell it, but now are in a position to buy a bit. And we get the conversation, they tell me, yeah, I bought it at 1,100 or 800 or 200.
Wow. Nice.
So that's interesting. But no, it's good. People are waking up and getting their financial insurance in place.
Good. Well, I suppose everybody can see from my headline that I'm no mathematician, but I think my point can be kind of, bore out, I guess you would say, in that my title is from $35 gold to $3,500 gold is 100% loss of purchasing power. And actually, I guess that's not exactly correct, but we're down to a penny if you look at it and really break it down math wise.
Yeah.
And then once you get to that penny, like you say, then we still have a whole nother 100% to go.
What we have, the dollars we have now is our 100% in fiat, and what it will purchase at the moment is our 100%, and the amount of gold it will purchase is our 100% capacity of purchasing power using the fiat currency. But I think the big difference going forward is going to rapidly revert to the penny a lot quicker than it did historically.
Yeah, so far. Yeah, I got so I put out my title, and then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, okay, well, that's not quite exactly right. And then I got nervous because I'm not good at math, so I went and talked to my wife. She's a lot better at math, and at first she didn't understand at all what I was saying, and then I kind of broke it down a little bit for her, and she did some math. She's like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. But so now that we're down to like 1%, you know, if even that, of our purchasing power, I just kind of run through the math in my own mind. You can never actually lose 100% of the value where we're at now. You just fractionalize and fractionalize and fractionalize.
You do when that currency is replaced potentially.
Sure, of course.
And if you look at some of the hyperinflationary examples, like Weimar Germany, when it was what was it, 1 million fold or something, you when to all intentional purposes. And if you think about it, tying this into what's happening, I think they're still going ahead with removing the penny.
I heard that. Yep.
So our smallest unit will then be 5 cents. So you know, I think that's noticeable, isn't it? But to lose 99%, there's not that much difference to losing all of it, is there?
Exactly. That's kind of why I feel somewhat okay with my title, because really we really have lost it. And then it was interesting to me. My wife was explaining that, you know, even though we're down to that penny, even if it went another 100x move like we've already done, we'll still have a fractional. There would still be a tiny amount, and you would just keep going, and it would just get to where like in Weimar, where you're literally taking wheelbarrows of cash in.
Except that if oh my gosh, what was that? Clive Thompson. If Clive Thompson was right that we're going to go digital, and I think we are.
Yeah.
And if he was right that we'll have multi-tier dollars, and he suggested we might have two, when I was talking to David Morgan, he agreed with me we could have multiple tiers of dollars, what they can and can't do. With the digital dollar being the new, will do everything to start with, and you may even be allowed to use it for anything and everything to start with. And then, so if old dollars eventually, you know, and it might be weeks, months, or years, cannot be transferred into the new dollar, then that physical dollar does go to zero.
Sure. Well, yeah. No doubt. And of course, every fiat currency so far in history, which is thousands.
4,000, I think I've seen figures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has gone to zero. And now this might be one of the more first time reserve currencies that has had this much of a devaluation. I'm not sure about that. Do you know?
Well, the status of a dollar as a reserve is diminishing.
Yes.
But we have this huge complication. It's hard to get your head around that there's more dollars created outside of the US than in the US. So it is the plummet, it's the liquid in the pipes for the whole financial world. Now that it's going to be hard for that to go away. But I think if we want to survive as a reasonable civilization, we will have to put a barrier up to stop those dollars by being able to buy land, stuff in America.
Yeah.
Because if they realize, wow, this is going down so fast, I've got to spend it. We do not want those dollars being spent here.
Yeah. Well, I just heard, I'm not sure, I can't remember what his name was, but I was just listening to somebody who was really interesting. And he was saying that he just found out, amazingly, he was looking at our dollar and the amount sloshing around in the system. And he realized that China, ever since we've been sending our dollars out to receive goods, they've been stacking that cash, and they have twice the amount of money, even if it's fiat dollars that, you know, are what we're using. They have twice as much cash as we do. And that's why you see some Chinese coming over and purchasing our land with those dollars.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of that is CC, Chinese Communist Party members or close associates seem to be able to get their dollars out of China and spend them. But also on the measure of expansion, I've heard, I can't quote the source, but I've heard figures that China is debased at about 3 to 5 times the pace that we have. So their currency is incredibly debased.
Sure.
But the difference being they've been a huge gold buyer.
Yes.
And the bulk of the gold they mine stays in China. And I think the Chinese population who can have been buying physical metals, because that's been the only other option, apart from buying apartments, in the presumption they'll keep on going up in value, which they've just found out that there comes a point where that doesn't work anymore. And there's 60 million or more empty apartments that will never be used, because demographically they're never going to need them, and most of them haven't got staircases or electricity or water or windows or anything. So they will just crumble, and that's just been a complete misallocation of concrete, steel, labor, and resources to build them.
Interesting.
But where does it leave us? And I think for me, it's even more compelling that we've got to this point for all of the wrong reasons. But the right thing to do to stabilize the situation, to stop us breaking into chaos and Mad Max way of living, if that is a way of living, if it's possible, I doubt it, but is to go for the full digital, and trap a load of old dollars that can't add to the inflationary pressures. And that way, I think they can keep the plates spinning for another 5 to 15 years. It won't stop precious metals just taking off, because it will be, if we get any warning of the full digital currency, I think precious metals will sell out in minutes, and the prices will be astronomical, because people will realize, if I don't get rid of these dollars, I may never be able to spend them. And the whole privacy issue, once everything is fully coded, that doesn't look promising. Whoever's in government, they like the power, and they tend to, if they've got more power, they tend to use it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like you're saying, we're going to need to put a wall up or something, because if that fiat cash they've been piling up in China, if they decide, well, like you're saying, we got to do something with it, because it's going to be worth nothing soon, and we hope that we don't want them to flood all over here and buy up land and make our inflation work and do worse in doing so. And
well, they've been printing a lot. There's quite a few $1 billion worth of Chinese $100 bills.
Yeah,
they're getting as good as the US Treasury at printing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to look right quick. I'm going to share my screen here and show something Mike Maloney. I was just watching a bit before we came on here, and I found thought this was kind of interesting, a few things he says here. So let me get that started here.
And then I pasted it to this clip where in a Tucker Carlson interview, he says that gold can't have a fiscal problem. Gold can't have a budget deficit. Gold can't have a war. And then he goes on to say what a gold bug he is. Well, now I'm going to add to all of this evidence. So let's take a look at this.
Gold is not a fiat currency. There's a limited amount. It is recognized as a store of value. And you are seeing that you can keep gold in your vault.
So gold is not a fiat currency. It's a store of value. You can keep it in your vault. At least he understands the difference between money and currency. Now, he goes on later in this video to suggest that other countries might have their currencies convertible to gold as well.
Who knows whether China's moving on to war footing vis-a-vis Taiwan? The Chinese PBOC is the largest buyer of gold now. So, could we imagine, again, back to imagination, could we imagine some kind of a RMB that is exchangeable into gold, maybe at a premium?
So I don't disagree with any of that, which is probably why I find myself constantly sort of rolling my eyes when people mention Bitcoin.
Gold can be a risk off and a risk on asset. Bitcoin is a risk on asset.
Okay, so the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States of America is pretty much confirming here that the world is not going to go on to a Bitcoin-based monetary system. It really does. He's talking about the Chinese RMB, the renminbi, the yuan, being convertible into gold. And so that would mean a global gold standard. Now you need to listen to some of what Donald Trump said in his last term. This clip is more than...
So I thought that was kind of interesting about the Bitcoin. I know a lot of people have been pushing real hard into that, but it's interesting he's calling it a risk on asset. And I've been kind of noticing that lately, that often the dollar's dropping and Bitcoin drops, and when the market drops, Bitcoin drops.
Yeah.
And gold and silver have been kind of going the other way. So that might already be starting to. I thought it would get quite a bit further into the crash before the Bitcoins and those tokens would start to fall. I kind of knew it was all a charade, but at the same time, I did think it would carry on and they'd push it a little bit longer to prop up and keep people out of the real thing, gold and silver.
But it does it keep them out? Because if somebody buys a Bitcoin, let's presume they're all mined, and they are nearly all mined, aren't they? I think they're up to 19,000. So let's presume they're all the Bitcoin that are ever going to be mined are mined, and that the percentage adding to that is so small now we can sort of discount it for thinking on the bigger picture. No dollars stay in Bitcoin. Somebody sells a Bitcoin, somebody buys a Bitcoin. So the person who sells a Bitcoin could be buying gold and silver.
Yes, but in my mind, and I may be wrong here, but it also does prop up the dollar as well by holding on to it, because fiat backed.
Yeah, I mean, isn't Tether a large holder of U.S. Treasuries now?
Yes, that's a
fairly
whole
large
thing.
So there is an incestuous, I don't know if that's right, the word, an unholy alliance.
It works.
Can I prove crypto and stable coins? You see, you could use the argument, or look at the unsavory characters that are involved in it. Look at the bribery and the corruption, but then that applies to any means of exchange. So that's not a reason to discount it. It's my gut instinct tells me to discount it.
Yeah, I mean,
at the end of the day, gold and silver are God's money. It clearly tells us in Genesis 2 about the purity of gold, how it is hidden in the same, and how it is we should use it to trade with. So that's laid down fundamentally in the best guidebook to life, the universe, and everything I've ever come across and will ever come across.
Yeah.
So I don't need to look for something to improve on something that my understanding, my faith and belief, the creator of everything, created for us to use to trade with. Now, yes, he gave us intellect and intelligence, and but it does seem every time crypto you see abuse and the little guys get beaten up, and then the little punters get beaten up by the whales, and the manipulation. It's and I don't want to be. I've lost friends over talk, so I don't want to. Each to your own. If that's the way you want to go, but I know what this is.
Yeah.
I know a fair bit. And Space Miner knows a lot probably about the metallurgy, the atoms, and I know the uses this has, and I know it's being destroyed. So cryptos, there can be an infinite number of different cryptos with a finite amount. So infinity times finite is still infinity.
Sure.
So
and the silver and gold you hold in your hand, they can't stop you from trading that, when you're outside with someone else for whatever value you want.
And generally, there's no record of it.
Right.
Whereas, from my understanding of every blockchain, for it to exist, every transaction has to be proved and recorded. The recording of it is the proof of the transaction.
Yeah.
So there's a permanent ledger of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally each to their own. But like I was watching the monetary system and kind of figuring out that we're going into this close of this existing thing that we have.
Yeah, and these manias throughout history, and I would say there's been a mania about Bitcoin. I mean, I've probably said it before on this program, but Sir Isaac Newton mortgaged his house to buy more shares in the South Sea bubble and lost his house.
Really?
Now, most people say Sir Isaac Newton is probably one of the smartest physicists, scientists, monetarists, generalists ever.
Yeah.
You know, we still refer to the Newton's first, second, third, and fourth laws of physics, gravity, you name it, you know.
Yeah.
So if somebody can get misled like that, but I think time will tell pretty quickly. You know, I mean, if Bitcoin goes to 1 million, what does that mean? I don't know.
Well, did you hear? So Jamie Dimon just came out and said that instead of stacking Bitcoin, you should be stacking bullets and gold.
He did, didn't he? I mean, what bullets? It's like, woo.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what we've been seeing. It's funny, like that now that we're here, suddenly they see these things, which makes me know, but like I thought, they've seen it the whole time. And they just pushing their agenda, you know, so that they can make their banking money in there.
No, I mean, I do listen now and then, and I do try and listen to Michael Saylor sometimes, but I find his squeaky voice so freaking annoying.
Yeah, I can't do a Michael Saylor. That's a little.
But what was he? So, please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but he raised the last tranche of dollars to buy Bitcoin, and he's paying 10% dividend on those borrowings. So he's on leverage, fiat leverage now. So if Bitcoin pulls back to 20,000, that's the end of strategy, which was micro strategy. They're done. Because they'll have to keep on selling. It'll just implode. The leverage will unwind on them. Once you're on leverage on anything, even if the position is sound, if the market around you is, you know, a temporary or a prolonged period of insanity, you're toast. You know, if you have a house that's worth $1 million and you've got $100,000 mortgage on it, but your mortgage goes to $1 million a year and you can't pay it, you lose your house.
Yeah.
And there's a fire sale and you don't get the full value or anywhere near it by the time the vultures have picked over the carcass. So I just think that whole thing is going to end badly.
Yeah, in my mind, it was always going to be that way. I've always thought and still think that it can make you a lot of money because, you know, we are at the end of this monetary system. So there are going to be huge slushes of funds jumping around and being pushed into places by people who aren't sure where to go. And of course, what's new and exciting, and Bitcoin. So, I mean, there's going to be stuff thrown in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, it was way too obvious and, timing on it when after the 2008 crisis, suddenly there's the white paper on Bitcoin. And it's like, that seems a little handy.
It's definitely conditioned a large part of the younger population that crypto and digital is absolutely fine. So it is, you know, heck, I mean, people have grown up with their neural networks have developed around partial knowledge. And I'm not saying I know a huge amount about it, but when I've listened to people who really do know a lot about it, and some of them won't go near it, even though they do buy other coins, other blockchain. So how do you combat it? If you've grown up and you presume this is just normal, now that's your recency bias, isn't it? So now you're projecting into the future. Yeah, it's volatile, but it's always going to get back to 100,000. It's always going to, you know.
Right.
And then every time they seem to want to pump it, the figures get higher of where it's going. 500,000, 1 million, 7 million. It's like you can't create wealth out of nowhere. Now, I mean, that's a whole debate, isn't it? I understand some of the premises of the debate where you mine gold, you use energy to mine it. I do get the comparisons there. But the bulk of the gold that has been mined doesn't need huge amounts of energy to maintain it.
Right.
Whereas the Bitcoin system needs an ever increasing amount of energy. And you look, now we sort of could cross over into the AI subject a little bit.
Sure. Yep. It's on my list. So go ahead.
So you look at what Musk is doing in Memphis. He has installed 32 portable gas turbine power stations, which only ever get a permit for temporary use. Therefore, like disaster areas, very temporary. He's running up to 30 of those to produce the amount of electricity that Grok is demanding. He's planning on trebling the facility and installing another 40 to 70 of these temporary. And they're putting out formaldehyde, toxic particles, gases. It's literally killing people in Memphis for the sake of Grok. So somebody can, and tell you what, it winds me up whenever I hear somebody, Alexa. It's like, are you so freaking stupid that you're talking to an artificial intelligence? You do know what is happening, do you? And people don't. They don't get it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what else is amazing is watching them push the whole AI thing. Like, okay, so one of my questions, I'll just get into it here, is supposedly, and I haven't dug too deep into this, but in the BBB, the big beautiful bill, states can't fight back against any new AI program. That
page 278, 279, there's a provision in the big beautiful bill that removes any state's independent rights to say no to AI. So basically, they will have their rights as independent states taken away to say, no, we don't want you here. No, you're not taking our electricity. No, you're not poisoning our air. And even to the point that the EPA has stated that one of their main roles is to promote AI. The Environmental Protection Agency. What?
Like what what this past 15 years, I've had nothing but beating into my head of we got to save the planet and we've got to, all this stuff about new green. Now it's like,
screw that.
Yeah. There's no fight back.
Drill baby Bill. Let's make as much energy as we can, make the computers as big as possible so they can use as much energy as possible. And then what?
Yeah, and we've got to double and triple our energy, and we're already having countries that are blacking out, and it's like, oh yeah, there's nothing to consider here at all, is there? It's like, wow.
No, I just don't like it. It's creepy, this whole AI thing. I really,
yeah. And like you say, people seem to not realize how big of a deal that is. And when AI is not this. It gets all types of things wrong when you ask it questions. Or I decided, since everybody's using it on their thumbnails, I would try it. And man, oh man, I spent half a day trying to get a picture somewhat close to what I was looking for, and no luck. I just finally said, "Get it." But it's like it's not this perfect mind or perfect knowledge thing.
No, and I think the whole race, the presumption of the people in the race are, if they get to some sort of super level first, they'll become dominant, and then they'll be able to create huge wealth or take huge wealth. But where does it end? Who's going to be the consumer of it if it replaces everybody's job or nobody's got any income? So therefore, it doesn't. I don't know.
It's like we're literally putting humanity aside for AI, and I see it even in the day, and as you're out in public or in commerce, and you got someone behind the desk who's supposed to help check you out, but if the computer isn't saying it right, even if though they know you're right there and they know what is actually needed, and if they would just facilitate it themselves, there'd be no problems. But like, no, the computer isn't working right now, so we can't. It shouldn't be like that. It should be humanity first, and then we'll let AI help if it's helping. But yeah, it's like, nope, there's no stopping it. We don't care what problems it causes. This is just the new thing we're gonna do. It's just kind of loony in my opinion. But
well, it is, and you combine that with things like Neuralink, you know, and I'm sure some people will just sign up for that because they think it will give them an edge.
right, right.
Oh dear.
So
we need something cheerful.
Okay, well, on the other side of that, we've got Florida that has legalized gold and silver for legal tender. I thought that was good. There's been a whole bunch of states here. I even got a list here of states that have removed tax from gold and silver. So Kentucky, Wyoming, Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, Ohio, and I think soon New Jersey and Nebraska have removed tax off of buying bullion. So those are big positive steps forward. Then you have states actually going all the way and making it legal tender for even tax purposes. So I find that at least promising from our states kind of waking up to some of these things. So
yeah, and then Idaho has passed the legislation that the gains
can't be
precious metals won't attract state income tax.
Nice. See, these states are making me want to move over there. That's interesting. And it was also interesting of, you know, they made like eagles and silver if it's labeled with its purity, and then if it's in bar form and only has like one stamp on it. There was some odd language included in it that made, I think, silver eagles are acceptable, but also like silver bars that just have 3 9s on it are acceptable, but like some things aren't. So it could get interesting. I know that the people who are working on these bills are trying to get that taken out so that it's just specie itself, which some states have went that way, which is the way you would want it to go, where it's just down to like I'm kind of starting to push the pure metals movement. If it says it's pure silver or pure gold and it's stamped and can be, you know, then it works. And I thought,
from what I understand, that is the definition of coin in the Constitution. Coin means refined, weighed, assayed, and stamped.
okay.
So a bar is a coin.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. I mean, you can look it up. I'm sure it says nothing but gold and silver coin shall be used in settlement of debts.
I can look that up right quick while I'm doing that. Let's see here. I was wanting to ask you if you knew anything about the actual contracts or contractual exchanges where we are pulling our spot price from. Are these like countries exchanging large bids and buys of metals, and there's some desk that all this crosses over and that's what they pull the spot from? Or do you know much about it?
Do you know what? I don't, and even if you did, you probably wouldn't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see here.
We haven't got 3 price discovery yet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It says right here. This is section 10, article 1, I think. Make anything but gold and silver coin. Yep. A tender in payment of debts.
So coin means stamped, marked. Doesn't mean has to be around what we consider a coin.
Okay. Interesting. You know, it's interesting along these lines. There's some people that are waking up and really trying to push for cash, and I mean, you know, I don't know why they're not seeing to go just to gold and silver, but they are waking up. Oh, we need to be able to transact outside of, you know, a locked down, you know, exchange online, a digital thing. And what's also interesting is here in Colorado, there's a new law where that makes any business accept cash, paper money as a form of payment. And they had to put that back into law here not long ago because, you know, there's so many places here that are stopping to take cash.
No cash. Yeah.
And just today I went to kind of a sub place, Firehouse Subs. They got some good sandwiches, and I got some subs for my kids and me, and I went to pay, and she's like, "Oh, we don't accept." So four sandwiches, $51.
Oh my.
Okay, but I mean, like that in itself is quite a thing. But anyway, I happen to have exact change, $51. I had a $50 bill and a $1 bill, and I handed it to her, and she's like, "Oh, wait, I can't take that." And I'm like, "It's exact change. What do you mean you can't take it?" And she's like, "Oh, we can't take." I'm like, "Well, you have to take it as legal tender."
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, she called her manager, and the manager comes in and looks at me and looks at the money, and she's like, "Take it." But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's interesting to see this kind of taking place in front of my eyes. But yeah, okay. What else do I have here? Yeah. So if we've had the 100% or 100x move in gold, and it's down to 1% or 1 penny of a dollar value, where are we at with silver? That leaves us with still 64 or so percent to go if we're at $35 an ounce before we've reached that X move, right? Am I looking at that right?
I think the only way to really compare, well, one way to compare it would be what was the monetary ratio. The monetary ratio was 15 to 1.
Well,
I was
thinking of
the silver's got 6 pennies left.
Okay, I was looking at it as silver was a dollar silver coin, like $1 for a silver coin. We'll just call it an ounce, even though it's not. But like
face,
right?
Yeah,
so
it's now about 25, isn't it?
Right. So I guess once you reach
1/25, so it's got 4 pence.
Okay.
Ish. Yeah.
So we got a ways to move there before we catch up on the gold move there. Yeah, so I have here about the power outages and this push that we're going. And what's interesting to me is that we're having trouble keeping up with our power load now, but everybody seems so sure that we can just double our power. And it's like we just had power outages in other countries. Our grid is supposedly struggling. But we're just gonna double our power to run all this AI, and like I see possible problems there. Like,
yeah.
You know, people are just thinking like, "Oh, this is gonna work, and we're gonna do it, and it's gonna."
Well, at some point, yeah, there's a breaking point, isn't there, for sure? Now,
yeah.
Whether that was it Microsoft, one of the big AI companies, has bought the old nuclear power stations up in the northeast.
Okay.
And I think they're going to recommission a nuclear power station just to run their AI.
So yeah, and so probably nuclear is about our best way to actually conceivably get there that fast, right? Like as far as we know, what we know.
Well, obviously Elon is going the gas turbine route because you just deliver them off, and you can just pretty well turn them on within days, probably, of them arriving on site. And if the EPA doesn't care what pollutants you pump into the air or how many people you kill, because obviously Doge had a good old go at the EPA, didn't they? Slashed them in half and get rid of all any federal any safety checks. Path of least resistance, I guess. And his thinking was he was so far behind, he had to get that grok built in a year instead of 3 years, or he'd be out of the race. That's the perception. But I wonder, are they going to have to have armed? They're going to have armed guards around these facilities soon, I would have thought.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems because it's just such a wreck and disaster. It seems what kind of purposefully to me. But aside from that, like you have Elon that supposedly was supposed to rein in all our big government spending, but then we get this big beautiful bill that like blows that out of the water. It would matter nothing, all this that we've done, except for maybe clearing out some headaches like you're talking about, like EPA and this and that. It could have just been to shut some of that stuff down so they can open up
a convenient collateral damage, I guess, if you're being kind.
And that's what I see. I see so much of that, Ian. And I guess maybe it's just because of my mindset that I've had since I've been watching this thing. But they with all the illegals that they brought in purposefully, and now we've got militarized. I guess New Mexico has a new militarized from what I get, the southern zone of New Mexico.
It's a military zone. Yeah.
Militarized to help stop the stem. Well, it's interesting because back in the whole COVID, I was saying to my family, you watch, we're going to have military on the streets in a year. Now, it looks like I was a couple years late or early, I guess you would say. But here we are. And no matter what your view on, there's huge frustrations on both sides with this thing. What I see is if I try to just, not let my emotions get caught up in it in that way. But if you look at it from a standing way back, I just see, like you're saying, of how they're steamrolling a lot of laws and things that would normally have our antenna up, like what is going on? Why do we have military on our streets? And it's because of this that was purposefully done in the first place, And so for me, it's these things are scary, and to me they seem kind of purposefully done, although I think they're trying to make it look like, this is all just by happen chance and this is because of this. But I think it's literally because the monetary system is going to come to a close, and they're going to have some kind of control, and also try to cause perhaps chaos amongst the citizens themselves. Because I've kind of also seen what seems to be a big push for like a civil war. Like you got your news agencies that are literally complete opposites. Right. And they're just throwing out propaganda on this side, and they're throwing out propaganda on this side. And it's like they want to create such chaos that these other things can take place. And so, for me, that's what I'm seeing. And that's kind of scary. And to me, it all ties back probably to our monetary system, because that's coming to an end. And that's kind of the control, or what keeps the world turning, and us being the reserve of the world so far.
Losing it rapidly. I mean, gold over a year ago overtook the euro as a reserve. It will overtake the dollar as a reserve. So people are using dollar as a unit of transaction, as the ledger, but they'll stop keeping it as a store. Now that then puts us in a very, very bad place, because we won't have the purchasing power to import goods,
right?
Let alone put a tariff on top of them. Our currency won't have the value needed to import the goods, and we won't have the infrastructure to build them. And because we got such a complicated system of production,
and just
what we're going to do, we're going to start learning how to make carburetors again, because we haven't got the electronics for fuel injection.
Well, that's and we've lost our manufacturing base, like because of the system that we have, like
because of the benefit of our export was currency and our import was real stuff, and that worked until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you end up, your currency loses purchasing power worldwide, and you haven't got a manufacturing base, let alone the skills, let alone the aptitude. Most people these days have got very low hand-eye coordination. I mean, they're good at this.
Right.
Yep. And that might be useful for a few people. It's worked out pretty well for Ukraine. I mean, some of the young people there doing incredible jobs flying the drones, because they grew up on computer games. So they got that hand up, they got that. But there's only a limited amount of need for that. and we haven't got enough rural areas for everybody to go back to an agrarian lifestyle.
Yeah, that's what I see. We don't have the base. People are used to kind of UBI, you know, and even if we wanted to, like if it, you know, if it was early on and we had our manufacturing base, well, we just revert to old. But this will, to me, and again, in my mindset, that it's kind of going to force us into a UBI, right? Like, you know, because we don't even if we wanted to start manufacturing and, oh, we can just make the stuff ourselves, like you say, we don't have the aptitude, we don't have the facility. No. And people in their mind are used to just getting the cash and having it imported, you know, and just in time system. So yeah, I guess that's just what I see.
I mean, I guess the good news, I mean, hopefully, I don't know, in the, maybe if the tariffs might have a completely different effect to we expect, and the people who are trying to introduce them expect, maybe it will make people wake up and think, you know what, I just don't need that. I just don't need a new pair of Nike trainers, because now they're $250 instead of $200 or whatever the tariff effect will be. And then maybe suddenly people have disposable income and they think, do you know, how am I going to preserve it? I don't know. There could be, for some people, it might wake them up in time to save their situation. It's possible, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess that's what we're doing here. I mean, that's the thing. If you can get in and position yourself, this won't be such a shock, and they won't have such leverage to force us into UBI. That's kind of the bad part, in my opinion, is that it's I worry that it's purposefully being done. They don't want people to have that base so that they can force them into the UBI, and that only makes more sense when you look at how they're trying to make robot everything, make everything run by robots.
Yeah.
And so that's going to take away a whole bunch of jobs anyway. So
yeah, I mean, just was it truck driving? It's the largest employer of high school graduated men. I think it's the largest employer driving trucks.
Yeah, sounds.
And they want to just, you know, the plan is that to go away. So whether that, I don't know, that's millions. I think 3 million truck drivers in the US.
Wow.
So, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a good comment there. Space Miner says, yeah, how many gardens are ready for consumption? So it's not just growing food, it's knowing how to store it, isn't it? So.
Yep. Yeah, and we've been gardening for the past few years, trying, tying up one extra end of what might be coming in. But I have found, amazingly, some of these, like squash and some of these things, they'll last for a year just in your basement, just sitting there, and they're still okay. So I was shocked by some of the long shelf lives of some of these vegetables that are somewhat enclosed and whatnot. So do you do much gardening yourself or anything?
Potatoes, onions, and carrots about the limit, and some herbs at the moment.
Yeah.
I need to up my potato growing skills, because one of my favorite food groups. Interestingly, I saw an article in Idaho. The demand for potatoes is the lowest it's been since 1950 something. They're cutting the amount of production.
Oh my!
It seems a tragedy, because it could be such a cheap food for so many people.
Yeah.
But the bulk of it gets processed. So then it gets turned into a high cost food. Whereas really people should be buying a sack of potatoes for a few dollars, and it could feed them for a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. What else we got here in the chat before we get out of here? About run our time. Let's see. So much lies and deception, indeed, no doubt.
It is talk about that. It's interesting, isn't it? Before, when Scott Bessent was nominated, or it suggested he could be the Treasury Secretary, there was a few articles in the precious metals arena anyway about how incredible it will be, because he's got the bulk of his wealth in gold. he doesn't seem to mention that now, does he? It's
Yeah,
all about the system. It's all about, everything's fine,
it was funny because there was a lady that was interviewing him, and she said, "Well, I know you've divested out of gold now, but before." Well, no, because she just probably doesn't understand that gold and physical, you have a stack, wherever you have your stack, you have your stack.
And that's
But
it.
what she meant was he's divested out of the paper market so that he could take his position. But that doesn't mean that he's out of gold. And I guarantee you he's got a huge stack. Look at him smile every time he talks about gold.
Well, he's got every incentive to crash the system, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, that's why she was saying, "I know you've divested," but I'm like, no, that's a cop out. That's a complete cop out.
Well, I mean, unless he was told he had to.
Well, I'm sure but again, just your paper positioning, that doesn't mean. I mean, I'm sure that he's been stacking he's known as a gold bug amongst his trading partners, so I'm sure he's got a stack.
Well, they're so sort of detached, aren't they? I guess when you got that sort of wealth into the hundreds of millions, it's you got to be some sort of unusual person to not be so distorted by that you lose track of the life that most of us live.
Yeah.
And even myself, living in such a beautiful place, I look out most days across the mountains and you think, is this really happening in this country?
I know it.
All the stuff you see going down. I mean, I watched an article in San Diego where you had 7 or 8 goons in military uniforms with masks on, with assault rifles, and they were going into restaurants to find any undocumented restaurant workers.
Yeah.
It's like, it sort of reminds me, we had a similar thing in Britain in must have been in the early 80s, where the government decided to form a police group called the SPG, the Special Patrol Group. And they were often masked and had no numbers on their uniform. No means of, and they would go in and literally physically attack people, destroy their vehicles, and then get on a bus and disappear. And the public had no recourse because they couldn't say who did it. So therefore, if you can't say who did it, you've got no recourse.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's we see this over and over with all these crashes. I mean, you look at Germany and where's your papers, right? Like when things started coming down, oh, well, now we got to go, where are your papers? And that's what I see starting to happen in the US. I mean, just what you're talking about. Now, that's what I was talking about. If you take your emotion out of it and just, instead of taking a side or whatever and look at it from up above, it's like, well, what is the bigger picture of what's actually going on here? And what is this allowing to continue now in our country? We're used to seeing militarized vehicles on the streets and people with masks go rush a place. And that's just normal now. And it's like, oh, that's scary.
Let me run this by you. So I discussed this with a new client the other day, and I think I upset him because I don't think he quite understood what I was saying. So the abnormal increase in the money supply is what we know causes what most people call inflation, but it's the abnormal increase in the money supply is the inflation.
Yes.
That's the disease. The symptom is things get more expensive.
Rising prices, yes.
So you need to increase the currency supply in line with the population increasing.
Yeah. And
if you do that, keep it steady, you're not going to have rising prices. Everything's sort of pretty stable.
Right.
It's the same price last year, next year, 10 years time, pretty similar. Yep. Nothing really dramatically changes. You get stability. You can plan for that.
Yes.
People can make long-term business decisions, with a stable currency that grows at the rate of the population. So then I said, well, look at the scenario we're in now. We're increasing the currency. We're proposing to raise the debt ceiling. Was it 4 trillion, 5 trillion? So we'll probably add 10 trillion in this term before it's up, if it lasts till, 2028? And at the same time, we're decreasing the population. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, we're rounding up undocumented people, and most of them are working, paying taxes, using currency, so you're decreasing the population and you're rapidly increasing the currency, you're going to cause dramatic inflation. You're attacking it from both ends.
Yep.
And he got off on one, rapists, murderers, they should all be deported. And it's like, I'm just putting this as a mathematical result.
Right. Yeah.
If you get rid of 10, 15 million people and you increase the currency supply,
yes,
you are fuel. You're adding not petrol, not gasoline. You're adding flipping. What's the most inflammable thing you can think of?
Right.
And oxygen.
Yeah.
And acetylene, and everything you can think of to the fire.
That's exactly right.
Of terminal to getting to the terminal point of collapsing your economy, because if you increase your population, you can increase the currency supply.
That's what I was talking to my wife about that, and I was like, well, we have so many billionaires and trillionaires now. Like, if we would have stayed on a silver standard, we mine quite a bit of silver and gold, and as the population increases, then that new silver comes in, but it's much more evenly dispersed, and you wouldn't have so many trillionaires and billionaires, because, like you're saying, when if the population goes down and we keep printing even more cash, it's explosive. And so that's why gold and silver at least keeps you in a base of reality somewhere, whereas when you can and it's so much, it's where all the corruption comes from, because one people group gets to have a magic money hat.
Yeah.
And when it gets to the point we're at now, they have to keep printing a lot more. And so it's like you got to come up with reasons to spend on something. And that's where you come up with such crazy.
Exactly. And maybe that was part of the reason of opening the borders, to keep the population growing, so you can keep inflating the currency, because the incentive to keep inflating the currency makes the rich people at the top even richer, because they get more of it. But you've got to keep increasing it. So it's masked the problem to a certain extent.
That's exactly what I told my wife. That's funny. That's exactly what I said. So, yeah. Yep.
And here we are, and it's like I think I told you yesterday, didn't I? An older guy, he may be, I don't know, he may be 60, 65. He came in yesterday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6, $7 silver dollars. His dad had given them to him. He had to sell these to buy a battery for his truck to get to work. And it's like, what the is going on?
That's hard.
Can't a man be given something that his dad understood, bothered to keep and give to him?
Yep.
Can't a person be able to keep that?
Yeah.
In freaking Jackson Hole, why aren't people earning enough to buy a car battery?
Yep.
This is messed up, and I'm not proposing any flipping revolution against it, because revolution just ends up in a whole world of pain. I mean, what? I don't know. What is the answer, Longley?
It really just people have to wake up to it, and I don't know how. I mean, that's why we're talking right now, to try to help people. But it's like, it wouldn't need to be anything but people to realize what's going on, and it's amazing to me that here this guy is bringing in his last $7, and his dad gave it to him. And it makes you wonder, was his dad trying to tell him, you should keep stacking this? You kind of wonder. Yeah. But and he's bringing in his last bit of strength that he has. Now he's got nothing.
Yeah.
And people need to wake up and reverse that.
Yeah.
That mindset. It's really
whatever the transactions that are going on, he is not getting fairly remunerated to be able to live at a reasonable level in this society.
Right. No one is. And that's why
once you do that to the bulk of the population, I don't think they're going to be happy.
No.
Owning nothing.
No.
I just don't think they are.
No, I think
unless they got the Neuralink,
right,
and then the happy signal is sent out. Every time people start looking a bit dangerous, they just turn up the happy to 12.
It makes you wonder if they might that, you know, with the stuff they're putting in you that seems to be somewhat metallurgy, it can react from what people are showing to certain energies.
Graphene oxide in one of the carriers, some of the so-called vaccines. Yeah.
Craziness, man, beyond my understanding, that's for sure. But it's just like I'll take the sound money and I'll go that way. So
I don't know. I mean, building a cabin in the woods is just looking more and more appealing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess we're doing what we can about it here.
I mean, yeah, 888 there just says using drugs to control the population. Well, people think they are self-medicating to cope with society, but it's not. It's their situation is forcing them to try and escape.
Sure.
Now, whether that's politics, alcohol, food, you name it. There is a sort of self-medication going on.
Oh, for sure. It's a sad thing. And you get into the whole, for me, you know, you can get into the spiritual side of things, and that's just been completely washed away. And it takes people's foundations away. Like if you don't have an understanding of kind of that and you know, reality and what's good and what's not, and to stay relevant and stable in reality, people are just literally being tossed to and fro with whatever the news is pitching at them that day. And you can see people get really upset about whatever's on the news, and it's like, you're being controlled, man. You're walking into a dead end. And so it is. And our own government and our U.S. bonds, they're not able to sell anymore, and so it is rapidly coming to a close. And when you have Jamie Dimon saying you should be stacking bullets and gold and silver instead of crypto like that, it tells me that it must be right around the corner for him to be saying that.
Yeah, because JP Morgan were the first to do the Bitcoin ETF.
Exactly.
Sucking in retail investors into it.
Yet he's he knows it's going to be so bad. He's trying to
maybe he's at a stage of life thinking, do you know what, am I human? Maybe I should actually tell the truth.
Right. I think he's trying to create a little bit of, I told you.
I'm not so bad. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, all right. We went our hour here. What do you got for good deals over there?
My gosh, everything. We have maples from $2.40. We have Armenian Noah's Arks $1.60. We have some 100-ounce Pamp Swiss bars at 60 cents over.
Ooh,
that is way below wholesale.
That's great.
We have gold, 1/4 ounce gold at spot. So you can get 4 1/4 ounce. Oh my gosh, is that spot still going up?
Spot right now is 34.61. We are still ticking
along
up and to the right. So yep. And I'm gonna have to create a new sticky note. I'm gonna have to up my price a little bit here. So we're getting to a new high point here.
It's a new paradigm. I did actually buy some today at 34.50 spot as the basis, so that was strange.
Yep. No, I think, and like, even though you've got great deals, it just like you say, anything, just getting into, look, guys, is, you know, you just got to get into something physical and real and hard, because no matter how much, it's not anything to do with how much you love your country. Like Ian's saying, you look out your window and it's a beautiful, beautiful world out there. The USA is a beautiful place. There's so many great things about it. I was blessed to be born here, yada, yada. But, you know, it doesn't matter how much you wish it to be good. This is coming to a kind of a bad, fast closing, in my opinion, soon. So you just got to protect yourself. And it's the monetary system that's creating a lot of the havoc right now. So and instead of getting more and more frantic about not being able to pay your bills and this and that, you can look at the spot price and be like, oh wow, it's going on. Okay, we're saving ourselves here. You know, it gives you that little bit of hope and control and stability, and this is a time that we need that, I think. So
yeah, I mean, I remember when my wife and I started buying silver in 2017. We were buying it around, I think we were buying Britannia's at $18, including the premium. So we were buying around the $15 to $17 spot on silver.
yeah,
So,
nice. Yep.
you know, that's doubled. Okay, it hasn't done as well as Bitcoin.
Right.
But
I would way rather be there than Bitcoin right now.
It's just steady.
Yeah.
It's just steady. I don't think it's ever going to go down dramatically. And if it does, it'll go back up just as dramatically. So it's easy, isn't it? It's simple and it's easy.
Yep.
And yeah, and I know some people, I think some of the younger generation who feel shut out of the system, feel their only hope is to make a massive gain somehow. But mathematically, that can't happen for many people. Just do the freaking maths. The lottery, how many millions of people buy the freaking tickets?
Right.
How many people win? 1 in a million.
And if you were to put all that money into the lottery,
it's only going to be a few people in a million who make out on crypto.
Yeah.
And it's the million people who lose on it make the one person millions.
Yeah.
That's mathematics. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it might not be as exciting and this and that, but it's the slow going, like you and me both. We've been at this for a while, and it's not as exciting as crypto, but you're slow and steady, and you're sure, and it's real, and it's not something that's a figment of imagination that's ripping people off. Like it's legit. You have to pay for it, but it's real and it's tangible and it holds its value. And in a debasing currency, it's going to be the life raft. So.
JM's got a good point there. The house usually wins, and if you look at the modern financial system as the house, as the casino,
yep,
you know, it has to keep enough people with the illusion they're going to be fine to keep them coming in, so they keep pumping in everything they've got into the slot machines, onto the playing on the tables, and then the odd person does win. I mean, often. That they'll lose it anyway.
Yeah, they'll keep playing.
Because they gain so much,
yeah.
or they'll go out and they'll buy a yacht and they'll buy a car and they'll buy a house, and suddenly they've got nothing left and they haven't got the means to maintain any of it, and they have to sell it all pennies on the dollar, and they're back to zero again.
Yeah, there's something about, and I've noticed that with the printing of the dollar and these crazy things that they come up with. You wouldn't come up with such crazy ideas if you've earned something hard and over time and you put a lot of value in it. Like you're very thoughtful about, what you're doing with your money. And when it's a slow, long, you've been working at this long and hard and you haven't bought new shoes or new pants because you want that new, and that makes you very thoughtful and aware. And whereas when you get a boatload of money in a hurry, it's you just end up kind of wasting it a lot of times or blowing it somehow without realizing.
2017, that was the last time I bought a pair of shoes. Bought my pair of Justins, assembled in the USA.
Nice.
Roping boots. And that's my pair of shoes.
Nice. Yep.
So, and they're still going. I don't need another pair.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. In fact, my wife's telling me I got to get some new shoes, so it's probably about time. They are coming apart on me. So, well, it's good to see everybody in the chat today. Thanks all so much for hanging out with us. Stuart, JM Unleashed, 888 the Great, B Taylor, Truth Seeker, Gerald Draper, Space Miner. Appreciate y'all. Ricky's House of Crap. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And yeah, well, let's also mention, and Homestead Aquarius, it was great to see you. Haven't seen you in a minute. Thanks for being in here. You want to tell them about the symposium that's coming up at all? Or?
Yeah. So we're pioneering the first USA Osmium Symposium. We've got the wonderful Scarlett Klaus coming across. She's the EP of the Osmium Institute.
Awesome.
And we have Margarita coming across. We have Bruna coming up from Florida.
Cool.
Yourself. We have Space Miner from New Mexico. We have Truth Seeker from San Diego. We have Barry Creighton from Texas.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be a great event. It's not just about Osmium. It's focused on Osmium, and that's sort of what has connected a lot of us, isn't it?
Yep.
But it runs deeper than that. So I'm looking forward to where that goes. I'm excited. We've got some good ideas, forming a website as a hub. So to make that the go-to place, it's going to be called osmiumexchange.com.
Cool.
So that we will build that up. So it is a huge database of information, of videos, deals, ideas, and a place where people can make their osmium more liquid.
Yeah.
So we aim to make it as liquid as silver. Now, not obviously, you're not going to be able to take it to your coin shop that easily and get a good price, but we aim to get it as close to that sort of experience as possible. So yeah, looking forward to that. That's running from the 10th through to the 13th.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. Yeah, John Camper, thanks for being here, and My Silver Journey, good to see you as well. Yep, the 10th through the 13th. Like
we have two. Yeah, we have an event on the 12th. Where if anybody is in town, they're welcome to come along to. I think that'd probably be the best date, on the 12th of June.
Okay, there you go. Reach out to either one of us. Ian, drop your phone. Actually, I think I have that here. I'll put that up. Yep. Reach out to Ian, me, TheBee, longlivecoins@gmail.com. We have Ian Everard of ARK SGO, and his phone number is 307-264-9441, and email ian@arksgo.com. So reach out to us. We'd love to have you. And yeah, with that, I guess we'll get you back again in a couple weeks here, Ian, and do it again.
Awesome.
All right, everybody out there, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we've got a lot more good stuff coming your way, so stay tuned, and we will catch you all on the next one. Thanks, everybody.